Ladies and gentlemen, friends, seekers of success and prosperity, today I stand before you to reveal a truth that has been hidden in plain sight. A truth so simple, yet so powerful, that once you understand it, your life can transform from lack to abundance, from struggle to ease, from just getting by to thriving in every way imaginable. For generations, most of us have been trained to be broke, not by accident, not by chance, but by a subtle, unseen conditioning that whispers in our ears. Money is hard to come by. Rich people are greedy. You will never have enough. These are not facts, they are beliefs. Beliefs that we have absorbed like seeds planted in the fertile soil of our minds. And as with any seed, what grows is determined by the kind of seed you plant and nurture. I, too, was once caught in this invisible net of limitation. I worked hard, sacrificed, and yet somehow the wealth I desired always seemed just beyond reach. I followed the rules. I toiled. I even prayed, but something was missing. And then I realized the rules I was following were not my own. They were borrowed from a world that profits from keeping you small, from keeping you under the illusion of scarcity. So I began to do something radically different. I stopped listening to the voices that said, "You cannot, you should not, you will never." I started to listen to the whisper within, the inner voice that knew the truth, that I was worthy, that abundance is my natural right, and that the universe is a friendly force waiting to bless me when I align with its laws. The first step I took was to change my words. I realized that every time I said, "I can't afford this," or "money doesn't grow on trees," I was speaking my own poverty into existence. Words are not just sounds. They are creative forces. Every time you speak, you are planting seeds in the soil of your mind and in the universe itself. I began to speak words of abundance. I said, "I am open to receive wealth in expected and unexpected ways." I said, "Every dollar I spend multiplies and returns to me 100-fold. I declared, "I am worthy of prosperity beyond my wildest dreams." And then I acted not out of desperation, but from faith. I took inspired steps. Opportunities came, doors opened, and sometimes I had to walk through doors that scared me. But fear is just the shadow of doubt. When you step forward in faith, fear falls behind. I invested, I learned, I trusted, and slowly but surely, wealth began to flow, not just money, but joy, freedom, and peace of mind. Another revelation that changed everything for me was the understanding that giving and receiving are two sides of the same coin. Scarcity thrives where generosity dies. When I began to share my time, my resources, my talents, something magical happened. The universe reflected back more than I could have imagined. Giving did not deplete me, it multiplied me. And giving with a cheerful heart, without expectation, is like planting seeds in the richest soil. The harvest is guaranteed. I also learned to see beyond the surface of life, beyond the struggle. Every challenge, every setback is a message from the universe. When we look through the eyes of faith, we see that nothing is wasted, nothing is random. What seems like failure is often the soil in which our future success is growing. I learned to bless every experience, every person, and every circumstance, knowing that abundance is not just about money, it is a state of mind, a vibration, a way of being. And so, my friends, I am here to tell you, you have been trained to be broke, but you can untrain yourself. You can reprogram your mind, you can align with the law of abundance, and you can claim the wealth that is rightfully yours. Wealth is not just the accumulation of gold, it is the manifestation of confidence, clarity, courage, and unwavering faith. Wealth is not outside of you, it is a reflection of the consciousness you cultivate within. I did this, and I got rich not merely in dollars, but in life. I got rich in freedom, in happiness, in power, in the realization that the universe is always conspiring in my favor. And you can, too. It begins with the words you speak, the thoughts you harbor, the faith you nurture, and the generosity you express. Start today. Speak boldly, believe fiercely, act inspiredly, and give freely. Watch as the doors of abundance swing wide open. For as long as most of us can remember, we have been taught that scarcity is normal, that life is a struggle, and that money, success, and abundance are hard to come by. From childhood, subtle messages seep into our consciousness from every direction. Our parents, our teachers, our friends, and society itself have whispered in one way or another that life is a constant climb, that wealth is reserved for a few, that opportunities are limited, and that comfort is fleeting. These messages are like invisible threads weaving a pattern in the mind, forming the foundation of belief. And what we believe, whether we realize it or not, becomes our reality. If we are taught to believe that lack is inevitable, that money slips through our fingers, and that we are always not enough, then that is exactly the world we will experience. Consider this carefully. Every habit of thought you have, every word you speak, every feeling you entertain is a brushstroke painting the canvas of your life. When the dominant colors in your mind are fear, limitation, and doubt, the picture that emerges is one of struggle and insufficiency. You may work tirelessly, you may strive endlessly, yet your outer reality mirrors the inner belief that abundance is rare and elusive. This is not punishment, nor is it a moral failing. It is the natural law at work. The universe does not argue. It does not judge. It simply reflects back to you what you hold in your consciousness. If you hold scarcity, you receive scarcity. If you hold abundance, you receive abundance. The first step to breaking free from this conditioning is to recognize that it exists. Awareness is the beginning of liberation. When you observe the patterns in your thoughts and behaviors, when you notice the automatic acceptance of lack, you gain the power to change it. The realization that scarcity is not a universal truth, but a learned limitation is profoundly liberating. It is like waking from a dream in which you believed you were trapped, only to find yourself in a world of infinite possibilities. You can see that the poverty, the struggle, the financial frustration you have endured are not your destiny. They are the echoes of old programming that you inherited without question. Once you understand that scarcity is learned, you can begin to unlearn it. The process is gentle yet powerful. It begins with examining the words you speak. Words are not idle sounds. They are declarations that carry energy and intention. Every time you say, "I can't afford that," "I never have enough," or "money is so hard to get," you are affirming scarcity and inviting it into your life. These words are like seeds, and the universe responds to the vibration they emit. If you wish to shift from lack to abundance, you must replace words of limitation with words of possibility, words that affirm your inherent right to prosperity and ease. Speak boldly, "I am worthy of abundance." Opportunities flow to me effortlessly. Money comes to me in expected and unexpected ways. Repetition of these affirmations begins to rewire the mind, creating new pathways that support wealth consciousness. Equally important is the cultivation of thought. Thoughts are the invisible architects of your life. When you allow your mind to dwell on fear, worry, and doubt, you are constructing invisible walls around yourself, blocking the flow of opportunities, ideas, and resources. But when you consciously choose thoughts of possibility, gratitude, and confidence, you are opening doors. You begin to notice solutions where before there were only problems. You attract helpful people and fortuitous circumstances, and you begin to feel the ease and joy that naturally accompany abundance. The shift in thought does not require you to force or struggle. It requires attentiveness, practice, and faith in the unseen. The universe responds to conviction more than effort. Another crucial aspect of breaking free from the training of scarcity is the understanding that your self-image determines your reality. Many people fail to achieve wealth not because the opportunities are absent, but because they unconsciously believe they are unworthy of prosperity. They may work tirelessly, yet they sabotage themselves through doubt, procrastination, or hesitation. Changing your self-image is therefore essential. Picture yourself as someone who deserves wealth, who lives in comfort, who attracts success effortlessly. Feel it as if it were already true. The mind cannot distinguish between vivid imagination and reality when the emotion is strong. By living in the end of abundance, you align yourself with the creative forces of the universe, allowing your external circumstances to reflect the richness of your inner vision. It is also necessary to recognize that external conditions are not the source of scarcity. Many people blame the economy, their upbringing, their job, or their environment for their lack. These are merely reflections of inner beliefs. The conditions of the world respond to the consciousness of the individual. This is why some people thrive under circumstances that appear impossible, while others struggle despite favorable situations. Wealth is less a matter of external circumstances than of internal alignment. Once you align your thoughts, words, and beliefs with abundance, you will see that resources and opportunities appear where none seemed to exist before. Faith plays a pivotal role in this transformation. To believe in abundance is to trust in forces you may not yet see, to take steps inspired by vision rather than by fear. Faith is not passive, it is active confidence. It is the unwavering trust that what you desire is already on its way, even when the path is not yet visible. With faith, your actions are guided by assurance rather than doubt. You move through life with a sense of expectancy, knowing that the universe is a generous and responsive partner in your journey toward prosperity. Finally, it is essential to integrate gratitude into your consciousness. Gratitude is the acknowledgement of the good that already exists in your life, no matter how small, and it acts as a magnet for more. When you focus on what you have rather than what you lack, you are reinforcing a sense of sufficiency and abundance. Gratitude shifts your vibration from deficiency to plenitude, and in that state, wealth and opportunity flow naturally. Even amidst challenges, finding something to appreciate, expressing thanks, and celebrating small victories creates a fertile ground for abundance to grow. When you combine awareness, careful speech, positive thought, a strong self-image, faith, and gratitude, you begin to dismantle the old programming that trained you to be broke. You step into a new consciousness where wealth is not an aspiration but a natural state of being. You understand that abundance is not measured merely in money, it is measured in the freedom to create, the joy of giving, the peace of mind that comes from knowing the universe supports you. You realize that prosperity is your birthright, and all that remains is to claim it with courage, consistency, and conscious alignment. Words, thoughts, and faith are not mere habits or abstract concepts, they are creative forces that shape the very fabric of our lives. They are the instruments through which the unseen becomes visible, through which intention manifests as reality, and through which abundance flows into our experience. Yet, most people go through life unaware of this power, using words carelessly, allowing thoughts to wander unchecked, and letting faith be shaken by the circumstances of the day. It is this unconscious misuse of these forces that keeps many trapped in cycles of lack and limitation, believing that wealth, success, and happiness are for others, not for themselves. Consider for a moment the words you speak on a daily basis. How often do you catch yourself saying, "I can't afford that," "there's never enough," or "I'm not good with money"? Each of these statements, seemingly innocent or habitual, carries a vibration, a frequency that resonates with the universe. The law is simple. Words create reality. When you repeatedly affirm scarcity, fear, or limitation, you are planting seeds that grow into the very circumstances you wish to avoid. Words are not powerless. They are declarations that instruct the unseen forces to align circumstances accordingly. Conversely, when you speak words of abundance, possibility, and gratitude, you are sending out invitations for prosperity to enter your life. Thought is equally potent. Thoughts are the invisible architects of your world. Every idea, belief, or expectation that you harbor creates patterns in your consciousness that are then reflected outwardly. If you nurture doubt, worry, or fear, you construct invisible walls that block the flow of opportunity, wealth, and creativity. But if you cultivate thoughts of confidence, optimism, and faith, you create open channels for solutions, relationships, and abundance to manifest. The mind operates like fertile soil, and your dominant thoughts determine what grows. If you plant seeds of limitation, you will reap a harvest of scarcity. If you plant seeds of possibility, you will reap a harvest of abundance. The difference lies entirely in conscious choice, in the willingness to observe and direct your inner dialogue with intention. Faith is the third element in this triad of creation. Faith is not merely hoping or wishing. It is unwavering trust in the unseen, a confident expectation that what you desire is already in process, even if evidence has not yet appeared. Faith aligns you with the currents of the universe, allowing opportunities and resources to flow to you naturally. Without faith, words and thoughts may be expressed, but their creative power is diminished, blocked by hesitation or doubt. Faith is the energy that transforms intention into action, and action into manifestation. It is the bridge between imagination and reality, between desire and fulfillment, and without it, the mind's creative forces remain dormant or misdirected. The alignment of words, thoughts, and faith creates a harmonious frequency that resonates with abundance. When you speak confidently, think positively, and trust without reservation, you are creating a magnetic field that draws opportunities, wealth, and favorable circumstances to you. This alignment is not a secret reserved for a select few. It is a law accessible to everyone. It is a natural principle, like gravity, that responds consistently to the vibrations you emit. When you understand this, you no longer have to chase success or struggle against life. Instead, you allow it to flow to you effortlessly, because your inner world matches the vibration of the abundance you seek. One practical way to harness these forces is through conscious affirmation. Affirmations are spoken declarations that align your words with your highest intentions. They are tools for reprogramming the subconscious mind, for shifting patterns of belief that have kept you in cycles of limitation. The effectiveness of affirmations lies not only in repetition but in the emotion, conviction, and clarity with which they are spoken. Say, "I am open to receive wealth in expected and unexpected ways," or "money flows to me easily, constantly, and abundantly." Do not merely recite these words, feel them as true, envision them as already manifested, and trust that the universe is responding. Each repetition reinforces the mental pathways that support abundance, gradually replacing the old patterns of scarcity with a new reality of prosperity. Thought control is another essential practice. Most people allow thoughts to run freely, often dwelling on problems, limitations, or fears. These uncontrolled thoughts act like invisible magnets, attracting the very circumstances one wishes to avoid. To master the creative power of thought, one must develop awareness and discipline. Observe the mind as it wanders, gently redirecting attention towards solutions, possibilities, and opportunities. Visualize the life you desire, not as a distant dream, but as a current reality. Feel the emotions associated with abundance, freedom, and success. The mind responds to vivid mental images combined with strong emotion, and the universe mirrors back these internal states in the external world. Faith amplifies the power of words and thought by providing the energetic certainty that manifestation is inevitable. It is faith that transforms a spoken affirmation into a magnetic force capable of attracting resources, connections, and ideas. Faith acts as a catalyst, accelerating the process of creation, dissolving obstacles, and providing clarity when the path seems uncertain. Faith requires patience and persistence. It is not shaken by temporary setbacks or delays. Instead, it holds the vision steady, knowing that the universe operates in perfect timing and that every step along the way serves the fulfillment of your intention. Another critical aspect of using words, thought, and faith to attract wealth is the practice of gratitude. Gratitude enhances the vibrational frequency of abundance and reinforces the belief that you are deserving of prosperity. When you express appreciation for what you already have, you send a signal to the universe that you recognize and value the flow of life. This recognition amplifies your ability to receive more, creating a cycle of continuous abundance. Gratitude is not merely a polite habit, It is a transformative energy that magnifies the creative power of your words, the clarity of your thoughts, and the strength of your faith. Consistency is key in mastering these forces. Occasional positive thoughts or words, followed by habitual doubts and complaints, are insufficient to shift the patterns of scarcity. The mind and the universe respond to persistent vibration. Repetition, reinforcement, and unwavering faith over time create momentum, gradually dissolving old patterns of limitation and establishing new patterns of abundance. It is the small, daily practices of aligning words, thoughts, and faith that produce monumental changes, often more quickly and reliably than grand, desperate efforts. The results of such alignment are profound. Opportunities that once seemed hidden become visible. Ideas flow effortlessly. Relationships become supportive and collaborative, and wealth begins to manifest in tangible ways. The inner world of positive thought, confident speech, and unwavering faith begins to reflect externally in circumstances, connections, and resources. Life no longer feels like a struggle. Instead, it becomes a cooperative dance with the universe, where you move in rhythm with its laws and receive in proportion to the clarity and strength of your inner alignment. Ultimately, the creative power of words, thoughts, and faith is not limited to material wealth alone. It extends to every aspect of life, health, relationships, purpose, joy, and spiritual fulfillment. When you master these forces, you realize that abundance is not a pursuit or an external acquisition. It is a natural state of being, a reflection of the consciousness you cultivate within. You understand that the universe responds to the quality of your inner vibration, and that by consciously directing words, thoughts, and faith, you can shape not only your financial reality, but the entirety of your life experience. Generosity, inspired action, and trusting the unseen are the keys that unlock true prosperity. For most people, wealth is viewed as a possession to be hoarded, a finite resource to be guarded. They cling to money, ideas, and opportunities, believing that if they give too freely, they will be left empty-handed. But this belief is a fundamental misunderstanding of the law of abundance. The universe operates on the principle of circulation. Energy, ideas, money, and opportunity are meant to flow, not stagnate. When you give, you create space to receive. When you act from inspiration rather than obligation, you align with the natural currents of success. And when you trust the unseen, you release resistance and allow the invisible forces of the universe to guide and support you in ways that are often beyond comprehension. Generosity begins with the understanding that giving is not a loss, it is a multiplication. Many hesitate to share their resources, their time, or their talents, fearing that generosity will diminish their own prosperity. Yet the opposite is true. The universe responds to generosity as a signal that you trust in abundance, that you are aligned with the natural flow of life. When you give, you are planting seeds that will return to you tenfold, often in unexpected ways. A simple act of kindness, a financial gift, or sharing your skills freely sends a powerful vibration that attracts reciprocal blessings. True generosity comes from a heart of abundance, not from obligation or expectation. It is the joyful, unselfish giving that creates a fertile field for wealth to grow. Inspired action is the second principle. Many people wait for opportunity to come to them, for luck to favor them, or for circumstances to be perfect. They postpone, hesitate, or overthink. Inspired action is different. It is action taken in alignment with your inner guidance, your vision, and your highest goals. It is action that feels natural, intuitive, and effortless because it is synchronized with the currents of life rather than opposed to them. Inspired action does not rely on desperation, pressure, or fear. It is born from clarity of purpose, a strong sense of vision, and confidence in the unseen. When you act in this manner, doors open where there were walls, solutions appear where there were obstacles, and opportunities manifest as though drawn by an invisible hand. Trusting the unseen is perhaps the most challenging yet most rewarding principle of all. Human nature urges us to rely on evidence, to measure, to see before we believe. But the laws of abundance are often invisible, operating beyond the material senses. Trusting the unseen means having faith that the universe is responding to your words, thoughts, and actions, even when you cannot yet perceive the results. It is the quiet assurance that your desires are already in process, that every step, every act, every intention is being guided toward fulfillment. This trust eliminates worry, doubt, and resistance, replacing them with peace, confidence, and a sense of flow. It allows you to move forward boldly, even when circumstances seem uncertain or delayed. The combination of generosity, inspired action, and trust produces a profound shift in your consciousness. Your inner world begins to align with the principles of abundance, and your outer world reflects this alignment. Generosity demonstrates that you are not limited by what you have. Inspired action shows that you are willing to move with purpose, and trust in the unseen reinforces that you are connected to a higher intelligence. Together, these forces create a momentum that attracts wealth, opportunity, and success naturally. You no longer have to struggle to force results. Instead, you are participating in a cooperative flow with the universe, where the unseen orchestrates events in harmony with your intentions. An essential aspect of generosity is the release of attachment. True giving does not cling to outcome. It is not a transaction or an investment aimed at a specific return. It is the act of offering freely, with joy and without expectation. When giving is detached from need or desire, it signals to the universe that you trust in the infinite supply of life. This detachment is a powerful magnet for abundance because it shows that you are not motivated by lack, but by the certainty of sufficiency. The more freely and joyfully you give, the more you position yourself to receive, often in ways you cannot anticipate or calculate. Inspired action requires attentiveness to intuition. The mind may suggest one path, yet the inner guidance, the quiet voice of wisdom, the nudge of inspiration may indicate another. Listening to this inner prompt requires stillness, awareness, and courage. Many wait for clarity to appear in the external world, yet the first clarity always arises within. Acting on these inner cues, even when they challenge conventional logic or comfort zones, is how breakthroughs occur. Inspired action aligns your energy with opportunity, allowing synchronicities to appear and obstacles to dissolve. It is action fueled by certainty rather than fear, by faith rather than doubt, by vision rather than past conditioning. Trusting the unseen is not passive waiting. It is active faith. It is the understanding that every thought, word, and inspired action sets in motion a chain of events beyond your immediate perception. You cannot always see the full picture, and that is precisely why trust is necessary. Doubt, worry, and skepticism act as blocks to the flow of abundance. Faith dissolves these blocks, opening channels for creative solutions, new opportunities, and unexpected blessings. The unseen is the invisible partner in every success story. Those who recognize and cooperate with this intelligence move through life with ease, while those who rely solely on visible evidence often struggle unnecessarily. Another dimension of abundance unlocked by these principles is the ability to see wealth in forms beyond money. Prosperity manifests as freedom, health, clarity, joy, relationships, and spiritual fulfillment. Generosity enriches your life not just materially, but emotionally and spiritually. Inspired action brings confidence, purpose, and fulfillment. Trusting the unseen cultivates peace, resilience, and a deep connection with life. True wealth is holistic. It encompasses all areas of being, and the principles of giving, inspired action, and faith expand your experience of richness in ways that money alone cannot. Consistency in practice magnifies the effects of generosity, inspired action, and trust. Occasional acts of giving, sporadic efforts, or fleeting faith are insufficient to shift deeply ingrained patterns of scarcity. Daily alignment with these principles gradually transforms consciousness, reinforcing a mindset and vibration of abundance. The cumulative effect of consistent practice is exponential. Small acts, repeated with sincerity and clarity, produce results far beyond what seems possible at the moment. Life responds not to one-time efforts, but to persistent alignment with universal laws. When these principles are integrated fully, life becomes effortless in a sense that surprises most people. Opportunities arrive seemingly out of nowhere, connections appear at precisely the right time, and resources flow without struggle. The inner state of alignment with generosity, inspired action, and trust ensures that you are not at the mercy of external circumstances. Rather, you are a co-creator with the universe, participating consciously in the orchestration of your destiny. Challenges may still arise, but they are seen as lessons, prompts, or temporary conditions rather than insurmountable barriers. Every experience becomes an instrument for growth and expansion. Finally, abundance becomes not just an external achievement but a state of consciousness. When you embody generosity, act with inspiration, and trust the unseen, wealth ceases to be a goal and becomes a natural expression of your being. You understand that prosperity is not a distant prize to be won, but a current, flowing reality that responds to your inner alignment. You see that the universe favors those who give freely, act boldly, and trust unconditionally. You recognize that abundance is not a matter of effort alone, but of harmony with the principles that govern life itself.